So let's talk about triggers and how they are connected to shadow work because triggers can be a direct connection into your subconscious. So, what is a trigger? A trigger is a response to a trigger is an emotional response. So, as we're children or when we're very young, we feel a specific emotion. It could be through a trauma or through some kind of situation where it makes us feel this intense emotion. And we're uncomfortable with that emotion. We don't know what to do with it. We don't know how to process it. And so we react to it so that we don't have to feel it. So it decompresses. It allows us to avoid feeling that emotion. So we create this reaction to feeling that emotion, which diverts the attention away from me. So we create some kind of response in the physical world that allows us to, which prevents us from feeling that emotion that we feel uncomfortable with. And so what happens is that we become incapable of feeling that emotion. So every time something, we lock it away, that emotion, because as it in our early childhood, we decided we can't cope with that. We don't want to feel it. That's yucky for us. We just want nicey nice. We want comfortable. We want to sustain a life that is comfortable, that doesn't make us have to face ourselves or feel our emotions. And so once this reaction is created, and we see that it works, we will continue using it throughout our life. Typically it's something that is very, very immature because it was created before we were adults. And so when you see people, it's easier to see on other people than to see on ourselves, right? But if we see people that have these reactions that are unproportionate to the situation, and they're on automatic mode, it's very easy for us to see it on others, but more difficult for us to see it on ourselves. And many times it comes to be such an automatic that we don't even realize that we're doing it anymore. It just happens automatically. Something comes in the external world that threatens to touch that little touchy box, that you can call it a Pandora box, comes and threatens to force us to face that aspect of self, or to force us to feel that emotion that we don't want to feel. And that automatic, we're triggered, and that automatic response deflects the attention from us. And so what happens is that we're going through life deflecting. Not only does it get in way of our relationships with people, our work, our ethics, it also doesn't allow us to use the full range of emotions that we have built in for our use in this lifetime. And typically when we go in and we find these emotions, right, they're ours, they're our emotions. So when we're afraid of feeling something, or afraid of a situation where it means that we're afraid of feeling something, which means that we're afraid of aspects of our own self. But if it is part of you, if your emotions are part of you and they are your guidance system, and we can get into that a little bit more, or maybe I can make a separate video about that, because that's a very large subject. So we are going through life without using all of our emotional capability or all of our emotional scale. So this dampers our life, and it interferes with our relationships with, if we're going through life afraid of situations because we're afraid we're going to be triggered and we're going to have to feel something, then we are always going through life with this wall around us, kind of like, okay, I don't want to go there, I might feel that. I don't want to go there, I might feel that. And then from that fear, we close our own selves off from life and from opportunities and from meeting people and from situations and from going after our dreams. And many times it comes so we become so engulfed in this shell that we've created of our own limitations, that you can see that it makes our life closer, more and more closed as we progress through life. We become more and more afraid of interacting with life, and by the end of life, we're already in hibernation mode, and we didn't live life to the fullest because of these fears and because we were afraid of feeling emotions. And what happens is, typically, once you find one of these Pandora boxes, and once you find an emotion that you closed off, that you don't allow yourself to feel anymore, and you integrate it into yourself, and all of a sudden you're allowed to feel it, first of all, you release all that fear, and you realize how heavy it was to hold all that up. And you have that emotion now available to you, and you enter into letting go of these. First of all, you let go of the behavior, the automatic behavior, the triggered defensive behavior, which a lot of times the defensive behavior, it doesn't look so defensive. It's offensive, but you're offensive to defend that that emotion. And there's many different ways. There's many different, once we're triggered, there's many different behaviors that we create to deflect the situation. It could be that we become explosively mad. It could be that we blame. It could be that we go into defensive, why me? What is the word here? Victim mode. And you start crying or start trying. Even the crying is deflecting. It's the poor me, I'm less, I'm not worthy. That is the exact same thing as an explosive reaction. All it is a mechanism so that we don't have to cope. It's a coping mechanism. But when it's done in a way of I'm the victim, you expect the other side to give you empathy and to feel for you, and if they don't, then they're not okay. So it's the same thing as blame. It's the same kind of it's the same thing in a different way. It's not taking responsibility and standing up and actually dealing with the situation. It's going into victim mode or defensive or offensive, or so it's the same thing. And once you follow these triggers, you say, okay, wait, I'm being triggered. And now you don't react. First of all, you're not on automatic mode anymore. And in the beginning, when you don't react, it'll be like it'll feel like that. It'll feel like you're pushing yourself past your comfort zone. It'll be very uncomfortable not to react. And hold it. And then when you hold it, you will be forced to feel that emotion. That emotion will come up. And when you feel that emotion come up, you can follow it backwards into your past and see when you felt it in the past. It doesn't have to be the first time you ever felt it, but if you can follow it into a past memory and see yourself in that past memory and release yourself in that place, because it's always leading back to, let me explain what I mean by release yourself. Because typically it's always leading back to a place, if you follow the chain backwards, it's always leading back to a place where you feel that you are unworthy. The situation that caused the closing off of that emotion was a situation that made you feel unworthy. You were unable to cope with it or to deal with it at the time. And so you closed it off, you created this mechanism, and from now on, that emotion is closed off with this mechanism sitting over it on guard, deflecting anytime something comes close. So you're guarded inside, you're guarding your own emotion. And once you quit with the deflective, you say you what's the word when you let go? I'm not going to get stuck on the word. When you don't use that deflective mode and you work past it, all of a sudden you're forced to feel this emotion. This emotion may bring up a gush of emotion from your childhood or from any other situation. It doesn't matter what situation. You can use any situation that comes to the surface for healing of it, because now you can look at those situations. See, in the beginning, you're not going to see the connection to what is happening right now to that childhood memory. In the beginning, it'll be difficult to find that connection. But we're finding a pattern. It's a pattern of behavior. And once you release that pattern, and it's much easier to release the pattern in your childhood because you have matured since then, you can look at that situation. You can look at that child with empathy as separate from you. You don't identify, you are that was you, but you don't identify in being that child anymore. And so with adult hindsight, you can look back and see the child in that situation and say, oh, and have total empathy and understanding and realizing and seeing that child in that situation, and just have this, you'll have this gush of love towards that child and this empathy, and you will let them off the hook. And once you let that child off the hook, the child that is you in your childhood memory, you can bring that situation and integrate it back into yourself, or that emotion. You can allow yourself to have that emotion again. You see that there was nothing to fear. It was just that in that situation, you didn't know how to deal with it. And now because you went back there and you allowed yourself to feel that emotion, now you have integrated that emotion and integrated that part of you that because you closed that part of you off, or that situation off, it's like abandoning part of yourself. It's like blaming that child for who you are today. You continue to blame that child until you integrate that memory and that trauma, and forgive yourself in that situation, or forgive yourself. Once you forgive yourself in that situation, you forgive the pattern, and then you no longer have to hold that face up. What happens, and that's the work. And you have to have extreme awareness in this. You have to be aware of your triggers in order to not react, see what you're feeling, follow that emotion back to a memory, deal with that situation. And this is where your mind and your emotion work together, because your emotion will take you there, and then with your mind, you can resolve it. You can figure it out and resolve it. And then your emotion and your mind are in sync. You sync them. They come to work together. And that is one way of doing shadow work. There's many different ways to come to the same outcome. But this is one way of doing shadow work, where you actually bring those past memories into your current, and you own yourself. And in order to do this, you have to have awareness. You have to have self-forgiveness, because when you have had a pattern of this trigger reaction throughout your whole life, and these triggers sometimes, if you're really held and you're really tight, these triggers can happen multiple times a day, and from just the smallest little situation, and you will not understand why you are triggered. You're triggered many times. At the end of the day, you're like, why did I do that? What came of that? And when you are reacting to a situation without using your mind, and you're just automatically on a trigger, it usually interferes with your life. It usually makes things worse, because you are working unaware. And so with awareness, you can watch your triggers, don't react. And you have to understand that when you are changing something that you spent a lifetime building, sometimes it can happen just like that. But typically, if it was an automatic response, you may find yourself still having those automatic responses, and then afterwards saying, well, in hindsight, looking back at the day and saying, well, I had that response there, and I wasn't aware, and I didn't take control of the situation. And so in that, first of all, understand that as long as you're even realizing it at the end of the day, then you're in a completely new place. You are, good for you. That is the first step in awareness. You just try to keep, and you will see that as you progress on this path, that you will be more and more aware and more capable of stopping the reaction before it happens. And even if you're not able to do all of that follow work, you broke the pattern. It's like sticking a spoke in a wheel. So if you didn't react and you sat in it and you allowed yourself to feel the emotion, even if you weren't able to follow the emotion, but you were able to sit in that uncomfortable space of allowing whatever comes up to come up, then you are expanding your emotional capability. And so next time you'll be able to hold more of it and hold more of it. So it's all about expanding those emotions, and our emotions and our mind have to work together. So I am sending you so much love. I wrote a book, a very it's a short 50-page guidance book about the integration of your beliefs, uh, thoughts, and emotion. It's called Aligned. I will put a link for it. It's a very intense 50-page guidance book. So if you are interested in doing deeper work, then the book is there for you. So I'm sending you so much love. Thank you for being here with me.